welcome to the first episode of our podcast. This podcast is going to be dedicated to tour operators. We're so excited that you're here. Our goal for the show is to really bring a community together and give you really honest advice, inspiration, value from my expertise, from my co host Greg's expertise, the people we work with, and any resources that we have available to us, whether that's across WaiverSign, ResMark Systems, ResMark Web. We want to just add value. So we worked with tour operators, well, pretty much forever. We're built by tour operators. We love this industry and we really want you to succeed. And that's our whole mission. So Greg and I really wanted to create a space where we can just have casual, fun conversations that are completely unfiltered, hopefully unedited, and it's just us talking off the cuff about what we've seen and what we've learned and what we know actually works for our clients, and then we could share those results with you guys. I know there's no shortcuts in life, but sometimes when you see companies succeeding, you follow that path. And hopefully something in here, even if it's just one thing per episode, clicks and it gives you that idea or that inspiration you need, and you could take that into action. I'm your host, Nikki. I am the marketing director of ResMark Web. And with me is my co-host, Greg, the senior director of sales and marketing at ResMark. And I should say ResMark Web, ResMark Systems, and WaiverSign, all three. We really come from different sides of the industry: sales, marketing, operations, software, design. But that's what's going to make these conversations really fun. And we're going to bring on some really great guests as well: tour operators, people from inside ResMark. And if you want to be on the episode, we'd love to have a chat. All right, now that I got that out of the way, Greg, I'm really excited to talk about today's episode. I know we talk about it all the time in for our internal brands, and that is being omnipresent. What sparked this is I was actually looking for a tour operator in the Virgin Islands for one of my friends. I had asked ChatGPT about tour operators in the Virgin Islands, and I also asked Google a similar question. Our client actually popped up. Not only did our client, Virgin Island Eco Tours, pop up on ChatGPT and Google, they popped up in the sponsored ads. They popped up in the Google Maps section as the first company with the most reviews. And then a week prior, they popped up in my Facebook feed as well. So they're posting on social media, they're running paid ads, they're doing all of these things. And I thought this is exactly what all tour operators should be doing, or at least consider doing if they have the resources. So we do this as an agency and as a booking platform, and we want to have you guys be thinking about the same thing. For me, omnipresent means really just being everywhere your ideal customer could possibly come across your brand. It could be TikTok, it could be Facebook, it could be a billboard, it could be a brochure in a hotel. So with that being said, Greg, I want to start with you here because you've seen so many tour operators at every stage of the business, from getting started to a multi-million-dollar operation. What do you think about omnipresence? What's like the first thing that comes to your mind for a company to be omnipresent?
Yeah, the first thing to me is you got to have a foundation. So, in order to be omnipresent, you have to have something that grounds your business. That might be a physical location. It might be your website. Maybe you run everything out of your social media accounts. Whatever it is, you need that foundation that you're directing everyone to. And in the case of having a physical location, you might be directing people to two places, right? Your website, and then obviously you want them to be able to come in if they're in location as well. So having a really strong website is your digital location, and making sure that it's really set up for success, because all these channels that we're going to talk about, that Nikki kind of mentioned some of them, like they all are going to funnel to that booking location, whether that's your physical location or your website.
And here's the thing, I think yeah, they're going to funnel through, and you don't know exactly how they're funneling through. So we need to get in front of them wherever they could possibly funnel through. And that to me is being omnipresent. So your ideal customer might not be on TikTok. Your ideal customer, though, might be walking in a popular hotel that is passing out the brochures and booking your tour. Or your ideal customer is sitting and browsing on Instagram every single night. So you need to get in front of them so that you could drive them to your website. So that's kind of how I think of it.
Yeah, I think about companies that are omnipresent, and the ones that come to mind often have like a really strong brand behind them. And so making sure that your business is recognizable as well. Like as I was kind of prepping for this podcast and kind of what I might say or whatever, I started thinking about my experience in advertising. That's where I started my career, working in Chicago, big advertising, and we worked on different brands, campaigns, and slogans, and the things that are like really catchy that draw people's attention in. And not saying that all of your stuff has to be super catchy. It needs to fill and fit your brand. But a lot of people knew Kmart for their commercial "Ship My Pants" because they were talking about layaway and shipping their pants right to the people that you're buying them for. It was really catchy, and it was something that they had in commercials. They had it on social media. They didn't have it in TikTok because that wasn't a thing back then. But what was the app that used to be like 7 seconds or whatever? Someone's actually trying to bring it back right now. I can't think of what it's
Fine.
called, but yeah, Vine. So they had it on Vines. I remember doing like Vine commercials for Cox Communications. That app didn't last very long, but they were everywhere. And when you think of big companies, you can often like know what their slogan is. So like if I said Nike, can you tell me what their slogan is?
Oh, just do it.
What
Yeah.
about KFC?
Gosh, you're stumping me, Greg.
Oh,
Should
that
I
one might
know?
be a little bit harder. That's it's finger looking good.
Ah,
But like McDonald's, right? Everyone knows this one.
ba-da-ba-ba-ba, just loving it.
And then like there's a ton of these brands, right? Like Subway's Eat Fresh, whatever it is. And you know these because you see them and hear them everywhere. And a lot of times they're kind of triggered with some sort of tune like McDonald's or State Farm, right? But it's because you're seeing them in a ton of different locations. And these are obviously like big brands, but I think the same concept flows into the tourism industry where you can have a very identifiable brand that is recognizable so that when people see you in these different channels, they know it's you. Like Taco Bell is a great example of really setting their brand so that they can be omnipresent. You hear that bell that they have, the dong. They don't even say Taco Bell in their commercials anymore because they have such a strong brand. So what things can you do in your business? It might be something similar to that. It might be your logo. It might be a slogan, whatever it is. How can you set yourself apart from your competition so that when you do come across people's feeds, like you're the one they think of?
One of
I
the
think
things,
that's huge in omnipresence.
absolutely. And you don't have to have $1 million budget to do that, right? Like you could do that without having to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. But real quick, it made me think and it made me giggle because anytime like I see golden arches that aren't even the McDonald's logo, I just automatically think of McDonald's. There's been a couple times where I'm traveling and there's no McDonald's in sight, but I see something that resembles a logo and I just automatically think McDonald's. So just how creative they were with something so simple. And
Yeah, and think about this like Coca-Cola, right? They're red and white are their colors. I bet if you change the Coca-Cola logo to be yellow and just had someone glance at it, they would immediately think McDonald's.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting because like I said, you don't need to spend so much money to um on creating this crazy, brand um You don't have to spend so much money on your brand, but what you need to do is make sure that your brand is consistent across all of these touch points, right? So, and that is what we want to do with being omnipresent. So obviously we're kind of talking about brand and brand perception. So that brand idea or identity that you want people to think of, that brand perception is what you want to do when you're getting in front of all of your ideal customers and all of those touch points to funnel them down. Greg, I have a question for you. Do you think that it's necessary for all tour operators to hit on every single touch point where their ideal customer is if they do not have the budget for it? For example, paid ads is a great example. Paid ads are expensive. Google ads is expensive to run. What would you say to like tour operators that are trying to be omnipresent? They want to be omnipresent, but there are certain places they can't, be. They can't be on the interstate on a billboard because it costs thousands of dollars. They can't run Google ads because of this. What do you say to that?
Well, so there is a company called Blip. We're not sponsored by them, but they do billboards that are actually really affordable. They're on the digital billboard, so that is something that's not out of reach for a lot of companies anymore. Um, but yeah, going back to what you're saying, you need to focus on things that you can actually do now. So I've been lifting weights a lot lately, the last 3 weeks. New hobby, I guess. And so I've been relating a lot of things to kind of lifting weights. Like I'm not gonna go and start, squatting 700 pounds when I can, barely squat. I don't even know what I'm squatting right now. Not very much, right? And so you have to kind of lift where you're at and do the things that you can do now and do them well and consistently. So what you don't want to do is like, okay, I'm going to have a website that's done and it's really just quick, easy, not great website. I'm also going to post on social media, but it's all just this stuff that I like and it's not really pertinent to anything. And I'm going to do email marketing, but it's just me blabbering on about something and it doesn't have like core message behind it. And I'm going to, go and do Google ads or whatever it might be. If you're doing all these different channels, but you're not doing them well, it's probably not going to matter. You're just kind of wasting your time. So you got to start small and like start with what you can manage now with the goal of building onto that and a plan to how can I then go and do the next piece.
Absolutely. Do the basics. Start with the foundation. There are foundational elements in, being omnipresent that I think that is reachable to every tour operator. And even in those basics, even in the foundation, you have to do that with purpose and then allow that to drive you into the other channels and touch points. You don't have to go all at once in all of these channels. You take it step by step, build up from that foundation. So let's talk about the foundation, Greg. Website, 100%. You have to have a website. That is your digital storefront. That is your location, pretty much. So website, you have to have, if if you can, a Google business profile. And the reason why I say if you can, sometimes it's a little hard to get registered without a physical address, and there's some nuances there. But your Google business profile, that's where you show up in the map section of Google, where you're able to get lots of reviews and post mini blog type content and photos. Your address, your business hours, link to your website, super important, and it's free. And I think this is kind of going with building your website, but build the website with SEO, optimization, AI in mind while you're building that. What would you say to that, Greg? Kind of keeping with the foundations. Is there anything else that I'm missing that's in the foundation that every tour operator needs to do? I know there's a million, like social media and whatnot.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of like really cheap or free items that could be in your foundation, right? Like having a TripAdvisor listing, being on Yelp, if that makes sense for your business. There's a ton of these like listing websites that you can just be on. And yeah, some of them like the OTAs, they're going to take a cut of your revenue, but if that's where you're at, go and be listed on there and get, your company, your tours, your activities out there. Viator OTAs are a little bit different. They're not really like advertising for you as much. They're just listing your trips, right? But like TripAdvisor, where you're getting reviews and people can compare your company to another company, like those type of listing services, super easy to get on, very low commitment. Just just do it, and it's pretty easy. Um, but then also, word of mouth, get your family and friends involved and get them talking to their friends and finding people, and just there's a lot of the, like, they call them grassroots, where you're really just, or guerrilla marketing, where you're really just kind of going and doing what you can with the budget that you have. You're basically bootstrapping and getting as much as you can for free or for as little as possible. And those foundational items are really going to get you to start building up that awareness, as long as you do it right and are consistent. You don't want your Google business listing to talk about, how you do this certain activity, and then they go to TripAdvisor and it's like not talking about that at all. You want to be consistent wherever you're showing your brand, right?
And I think that's a really good point. Let's talk about OTAs for a second, because so many tour operators want to avoid them. I get it. They're taking a commission. We want your customer to book direct. But so many shoppers go straight to OTAs because they trust them. They trust those platforms. They trust the reviews more than they do your website. That's why, kind of in a different conversation, I'm sure we will have eventually, your website needs to be built to trust, so that we're answering those fears and pain points that they're getting, resolved in the OTAs and whatnot. But I think it's important to still be listed in the OTAs, and that's just a touch point to the entire kind of picture that we're talking about today. So don't avoid them because of the commissions, unless it doesn't make sense for your business, of course. But I was like reading a quick stat the other day. Top research resources: search 46%, review sites 36%, friends and family 35%, hotel tour sites 31%, and OTAs 28%. So it's the lowest
What were the first two that you said, real quick? Website
search,
and
search and review sites.
so you have search, review sites, and OTAs. All three of those, I would almost say, are search, because if you search, tours in wherever, most likely you're going to see review sites like TripAdvisor, and you're also going to see OTAs like Viator. And so all three of those are technically in search. So that's really like a huge percentage. Sorry, I cut you off. You're going to say something about how OTAs are the lowest, but they are also bundled in the highest portion of it as well.
That is true. Absolutely. And then I was reading, I just wanted to say something else, that it was like 80% of people abandon OTAs. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder if that has something to do with people comparing on OTAs and then going back to your website. So really, when we're funneling people down, they're maybe looking on TripAdvisor, and I do this sometimes. I'm looking on TripAdvisor. I'm trying to plan my trip. I don't do this as much anymore. I usually just go straight to the tour operator. But I abandon OTAs, then go to the website, do my research there. So we're kind of in multiple places as consumers, right? Like, we're researching in social media. We're definitely researching in YouTube. We're researching in Chat GPT, OTAs, like you said, and then eventually the website. So the website needs to convert. That's the important part as we bring people down the funnel there. But
Yeah, and here's an important part of why omnipresence marketing is so valuable as well, is every person is in different parts of their customer buying journey when they end up purchasing. So, and it depends on what you offer as well. If you're offering a $15, I don't know, like, walking tour, that's probably really cheap. $40 walking tour. The way that people are looking and researching what you offer is probably different than like a 7-day Grand Canyon rafting trip, right? 7-day Grand Canyon rafting trip is a huge purchase, thousands of dollars. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. You're probably going to spend a lot of time looking at different companies to see what they offer, see, physically can you do it, all these other things. Whereas the walking tour, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to Chicago. I need a walking tour. This one has a lot of ratings. Let's book it. Or I'm literally in Chicago walking down the street. I see something on the street that says walking tour, and we're like, oh, let's go do that. So that's part of omnipresence marketing as well. Is just those, like, if you have locations, having identifiable locations that draw people in, um, that really make them want to stop what they're doing and come and do your activity.
Do you think, I think all tour operators right now, whether you're multi-day, you're selling a ticket for $5,000 or, a multi-day hiking trip for $5,000 or a $15, you know, 20-minute tour. Um, do you think that there's principles and basics that we could all take away in the world of AI, and let's maybe direct that to showing up in AI? Because I think that that goes across the board for all tour operators. Is, we're all getting the chance right now to answer people's questions and show up in AI. Your ideal customer, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, I'd like to hear your thoughts, but I would say nearly everybody's ideal customer can be in AI getting answers in your tour coming up. Maybe
Yeah,
we'll
definitely
see.
anyone can be an AI. I think especially since, Google is still the number one, search engine, and a lot of search results now show up in their AI overview. That obviously is going to draw more and more people into using AI, whether they're doing it intentionally or not. It's really just kind of like an easy, lazy way to search now. Is, oh, cool, it's going to summarize a bunch of things for me. I don't have to search as much. There's definitely demographics that are not going to go to ChatGPT and, search in. Like my dad, the way he uses AI is more like, searching his name and trying to find things about him and then getting upset when it's like not spitting out things. I'm like, that's not quite how this works. Um, and so really understanding your demographic and where they're going to search is valuable. That data and understanding that is going to really help you know where people are searching. But as we've seen, AI, in the sense that we know it now, it's been around forever, but it's grown a ton in just the last 3 or 4 years, and it's going to continue to get bigger and bigger and become a bigger chunk of this. We see that with more web browsers. Like ChatGPT has Atlas now; that's their web browser. Perplexity, another AI solution, they have a web browser. And as you start to adapt and now move away from Google Chrome or Safari, that now puts more and more people into these AI solutions. And I can't help but think that, especially for like Google's Gemini and their AI overviews, omnipresence is the thing that is going to help you the most for showing up in AI, because they're going to see that, like, you are here and have information. You're also here and have good information. You're more likely to be pulled in as a resource than someone that just has like one landing page that talks about something that's not optimized. So it's still like the Wild West out here, really trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, and it's shifting all the time. But following those core principles of making sure what you have is easy for the user, easy to, digest your content and understand your content, it allows the computers that are AI to go and read that as well. Structuring your content so that AI can read it easier is valuable as well.
We'll definitely do a full episode where we're talking about how to rank in AI. I think that alone, can be several hours if we wanted to. But I think it's important to say we need to measure all of this, or measure what you can. And measuring, we don't exactly know what to measure, or what, all to measure, I should say, regarding AI traffic and whatnot. But there are a few easy things that we know we can measure. We can measure how much traffic is coming to your site from ChatGPT, from Perplexity, from any of the AI LLMs. So if you're not doing that, make sure you do that. All you have to do is add report into your Google Analytics. We have one. I could drop it into the show notes. It's super easy to set that up and look at it weekly. How much search are you getting? And if you see it going up and up and up, it's a great opportunity to really just make sure you rebuild your website or or add in what it takes to, rank. I want to take a
Yeah,
step. Oh, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say about like data and stuff. Like it's super valuable. It's vital to use it to drive your strategies, but also make sure you have the human aspect. It's really easy to get too deep into data that's all you use, and you kind of lose like what got you to where you are. So most tour operators, like, you love what you do,
Hmm.
and so don't lose that passion when you're diving into the data, but also allow the data to really drive your strategy. Like going back to that example of the walking tour where people just walk by and go and do it. If the data is telling you that like 95% of your bookings come from people walking by, then obviously, like, put your eggs in that basket and don't try to go and do a ton of other things that maybe isn't going to get it to work. But at the same time, if you're looking to grow, then go and dabble in these other channels and figure out what is it that's working, what's not. They still might only be walk-ups. They might not be going to your website, but finding out, okay, you walked up here, what got you interested in here? Was it the sign? Was it a social media post? Was it the billboard we had down on the street or the at the bus stop? Really understanding where people are coming from helps you know where to put your time and energy, because you don't want to throw your time and energy into, you know, one of these channels, whatever it might be, YouTube videos, and you get like 2 views and 0 people booking because of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and sometimes in marketing, you don't know until you try. So I completely agree with you, Greg. But if you are curious, try it, and you do have to give a lot of things quite a bit of time before you quit. But
Yeah, don't give up after the first video.
yeah.
Like, oh, we got 2 views, we're done. This is
Yeah.
after like really trying,
Yeah.
getting data from it, and then being like, okay, this just isn't working. We're gonna focus over here where
Yeah.
it is working.
Yeah, capitalize on what you know is working. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with it is so important to just simply ask people, how did you hear about us? And allow that to help you grow. Um, One thing that I'm seeing, I guess you could call it a shift. I'm not exactly sure, but quite a few of our clients are starting to invest a lot more into handouts, brochures, really nicely designed pamphlets to send via mail and give to, concierge services or whatever that is. I find it very interesting because in omnipresence, especially in 2000 and we're coming into 26, we're always thinking digital, paid ads, AI and whatnot. But we also have to think outside of that. That's why I briefly mentioned a billboard and, if it's right for you, a radio ad. Um, and if it's right for you, a brochure. So it's kind of funny how we're coming a little bit back to basics, and I'd say it's all equally as important though, right? Like you don't want to just stop focusing on digital marketing and go full investment into brochures, but just so the audience is aware, we have quite a few tour operators that are investing more and more in either written books, like print out books to give their clients, and brochures and whatnot. So,
Yeah, I think in life in general, we're seeing a shift toward like analog a little bit more. I don't know if you've listened to or read the book The Anxious Generation. We're 10 years, 11 years now into having really concrete data on how phones have affected our youth, and the anxiety and depression that it's caused. Super fascinating book. Not going to go in too deep about it here, but you should go read it because it's super awesome. But having kids that are, almost teenagers now, they wanted phones like 5 years ago, but we're not doing phones until 16, because we don't think they need them. And I see ads now all the time for these more, they're obviously not truly analog phones, but there's people creating phones that look just like the phone we had in the 90s that was attached to the wall. It's a Wi-Fi phone, but it actually blocks like you who you can call, who can you can receive calls from. They have like flip phones are coming back for kids. I've seen tons of ads for flip phones now. So we're shifting back to kind of this, maybe we're too digital and we need some of these more analog things in our life. And it's really easy to get lost in social media when people are doom scrolling, to be like, oh, cool video, next, cool video, next. And like in 3 minutes, you forgot about anything you saw because you're just literally scrolling for no reason. Whereas you get a nice thing in the mail after you went to a site and were interested in it, like that's something that is probably going to stand out a lot more. And so I have seen that shift in various, forms of life, that we're kind of going back to some of the old things that we went away from for a while.
And it's all a touch point. It doesn't have to be digital. A touch point can be traditional or digital. So everything we've talked about, we didn't talk too much about social media, but social media is a huge touch point. Um, Social media, SEO, traditional, showing up in organic, Google Maps, paid ads, whether on Facebook, YouTube, Google, brochures, billboards. Are there any other touch points you could think of that we've seen our clients use as part of the customer journey?
Probably. I can't think of any right now
I have a good one
that you
that I'm
didn't list.
seeing is email marketing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so when we funnel people down into you know, our funnel to get them to sell, email marketing is a great way to stay in front of them, to stay nurturing them. And we do see a lot of tour operators don't have this in place yet. So they've downloaded the lead magnet, or maybe they signed up for the newsletter and they're not ready to buy yet. So email marketing is a great place. Um, so I kind of went through this before this podcast started, but they discover on social media, they research on Google, they compare you on OTAs, they validate your review sites, they decide via email reminders, they book on your website, and they do all of this on desktop and on mobile. We're seeing like a equally split these days, actually, whereas before it was just all mobile. Now a lot of people are going on desktop, maybe because they're all working from home. I don't know, but for consumers, I mean. But all of that to say, we see this for our business and we see this for tour operators that aren't booking the tour on the spot per se. Like maybe they're filling out a form and they're nurturing them. They have to be nurtured before they make that decision to spend $8,000 sometimes. And if you're not nurturing them through emails, how can you expect them to just buy unless you are creating some sort of relationship via phone or text message or just something? You got to get in front of them or else they're just going to go cold. Um, so
Yeah, it's like my wife when she wants me to get something done around the house. If she just tells me once, I'm probably not going to do it. Unless I'm like doing nothing at the time. But if she reminds me and maybe puts a sticky note somewhere, maybe has one of the kids tell me to go do it, I don't know. I'm just throwing this idea out there, but it happens all the time where she has to remind me multiple times to do stuff. We actually have a whiteboard that's like my reminder list where we write down what I'm supposed to do. And so if it's there, if it's on the calendar, she's telling me, it's like she's using multi-channel marketing just to get me to get the honeydew list done. It's the same with people, right? We're on Facebook. We see your Facebook ages me. We're on TikTok, and we see your ad or your post, and it sits in our brain. We don't maybe think about it in the moment, but now we see remarketing ads somewhere. We see the email marketing. It's these multiple touch points that just remind us and remind us and remind us, and it makes you stand out amongst the crowd, because if you're the only one doing it out of the various sites I went and kind of explored, then I'm going to be more likely to choose your company over the others because I feel like, okay, you're going to really take care of me. On the contrary, you have to do it the right way. There are companies that are like way too aggressive in their email marketing and their social media, and like you just see it way too much. You get like 2 emails a day, and their content is just like a little bit too aggressive maybe, and it turns you off. So there is a balance of how to really be effective with it, and going back to just like being who you are. What is it that you want your company to be, and making sure that everything you do goes back to those core values and shares that brand. I think brand here is like the most important thing in omnipresence marketing, because if you don't have that brand element, people are, one, they're not going to connect the pieces that it's your company, but two, they're not going to feel as attached to it either.
I think you don't want to sell too often. It's kind of how you were saying, like you don't want to be aggressive. You don't want to. There's a way to be in front of people often, but in a way where they want to see your content. They want, to open their email because you just sent them a really great guide about top 10 things to do in Canap. So get people excited about your brand and seeing it. There's a couple big brands out there that I follow that are just hilarious, and I enjoy subscribing to them. I enjoy seeing their content, whether on social media or emails, or just traditional ads on TV. Be the brand that people want you to see, like want to see. Be intentional about every part of the touch points, right? So if you're sending emails, send valuable emails, and then every once in a while, try to hook them in. Um,
I
and if
don't
you're,
know if we've talked about. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
it's okay. I was just gonna say, and then if you're running like Facebook ads, for example, make sure you have the expectations of Facebook ads are going to create awareness. So we don't necessarily want to sell, sell, sell on Facebook like we do a Google ad, right? We want to get them down the funnel. There's a place to sell on Facebook, right? But most of the time, people are just browsing on Facebook. So be intentional about all of these touch points. Sorry, Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say like the key here is knowing your audience, knowing who your core audience is. Obviously, like it's really easy to say, well, my audience is, anyone from 25 to 85. But like, who's the core? Who's the ones that you really want to target, and understand everything about them that you possibly can. Ask questions when they're on tours. Figure like be have your guides, or if you're one of the guides, like be very attentive to the things they're saying and doing, how much they're on their phones, how much they're not on their phones, and really understand the ins and outs of them. Ask them where they went to eat before or after. Understanding those patterns is really going to help you hone in on messaging and different things that will really help you create content and create these different channels that are really going to touch on what their core needs are. I think about like Allstate's Mayhem commercials. We probably are all familiar. It's the guy that's basically like, I'm the fire hydrant behind your car or whatever, like that you didn't see, and it like hit it and it blows up, whatever. That was done so successfully because they understood who their audience was and the concerns they had, but then also like what they like. And so the sense of humor of it really touches with that demographic. And it might not touch with some other demographics, but the people they're going after really, felt like, hey, this is for me. And so how can you do that with your brand? How can you make it, something that people are just going to gravitate to and then go and talk about? You asked me a couple minutes ago, like what some other marketing ideas were that maybe clients are doing that you didn't list. And some of those are really engaging your guests into your marketing, right? So having user generated content is beyond valuable, um, because especially if it looks user generated, like you can go and interview someone or have them do something specifically, but if it looks like something that they just did on their phone, it's more authentic and people know that like, hey, this is like a real person saying real things about this experience that they just had, versus like I go on Amazon, I see 5-star reviews on things, I'm like, I don't believe any of these because they pay for these. um and so how do you get your guests involved and your guides as well, your employees?
I would say if anybody takes anything from this first episode, um, it's get that content from your guests because it could be, you could kill or you could do a lot of things with that content, right? You could post it on your website, of course. You could post it on your social media. You could run Facebook ads to it eventually if that's what you want to do. So, getting that user generated content is so, so, so valuable. So, we talk with a lot of tour operators, we strategize with them, we talk about what they need to do, and sometimes it's just too much. Sometimes it's like, we see a lot of gaps, right, that they could be doing. And it's like, okay, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And then we check in and ask, did you do that? And it's like, no. And sometimes it's because it's just too much. So if you take anything away, go have your guides, go have somebody on your team. And if you're a one person shop, just go do it yourself. Have customers leave you a review via your cell phone. I would actually argue, Greg, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I'd say a video interview, like just a quick, um, like vertical format, phone, unedited, raw video is more valuable than a Google review. Now, that's a strong statement because Google reviews are very powerful, as well as all of the other, review aggregates. We want to get reviews. So, so, so important. But I think in the long term of things as well, a video review is awesome. Plus, most people that will leave a video review are most likely willing to leave you a Google review too. So,
Yeah, I agree with that. Like Google reviews are good to help get people in the door. Video reviews, someone might watch it, they might not, depending on where it's at. If it's on TikTok Reel and they see it, then they're probably gonna watch it if it's engaging. But if it's now on your website and that Google review kind of was like, oh, well, they have more stars than this other company, so I'm going to look at them first. Doesn't mean they won't look at the other company still, but I'm going to look at them first. Yeah, I think it just adds more, value and more trust there when
yeah,
you see these video reviews, because it's a lot harder to like script and fake a video review.
you know.
Whereas like I can literally I could write up a testimonial. I was taught this in my journalism class actually, that I can go and get a quote from someone at an interview, but then I can change it to whatever I wanted to say, send it back to them and say, hey, like, are you okay attaching your name to this? And most every time they say yes. So it's like way harder, in my opinion, to trust written reviews than it is a video that looks like, hey, this person did it themselves. Those
Especially
can be scripted too, but it's just a little bit more authentic, I think.
especially when people just use AI to write their Google reviews these days, which is so. Yeah, I don't do that when I'm leaving reviews for like restaurants or whatever, but I see a bunch of other people do it, and please do not respond to any reviews with AI. But the cool thing with video UGC, user generated content, is you hit on a lot of touch points with one video. So you could hit on maybe 4 or 5 different touch points in the customer journey with that one video. So super
Yeah,
important.
one last point on user generated content. Ideally, it's like the user doing it on their own and allowing you to use it or tagging your company in it. But if that's not working, don't be afraid of asking people like, "Hey, can I just do a quick, video with you, ask you a couple questions?" Um, any content that's like thought about at least is going to be better than not doing it at all.
You have to ask, and I've always found it's so much better to ask on the spot when you're in front of the person. I went to a restaurant once. It was an Indian cuisine, and this restaurant I didn't know until I got there because I was just walking on. It was in London. I was walking and I found this place. So, and then I'm Googling as I'm sitting there, like, oh, I hope they have, good reviews. They had 9,000 reviews. And I was like,
Oh man.
what in the world? I've seen like some companies have 1,000, like 5,000, 6,000, but 9,000, I've never seen it hit that like 10,000 review mark. But anyways, so Had my dinner. It was great. It was okay. Nothing like extraordinary though. Nothing worth like 10,000 5-star reviews. The waiter then comes over to me and he's very kind and he goes, "Will you leave us a review on Google?" And I said, "Sure, absolutely." He said, "No, but will you do it for me now?" And then he pulls out like a, a little piece of paper, puts it right in front of me and says, "Just scan the QR code, leave it for me now, and I'll give you a free shot." Now I don't drink, but I'm like, the fact that he said that and was bold and asked, I was like, I don't want the shot, but I promise I will leave you a review. And he stood right there and watched me leave a 5-star review. Now, there is, I think, a disadvantage to that because I didn't leave probably the most long, like, nice thought out review because I felt a little under pressure. But that doesn't matter. Like, for a restaurant that you don't need to make a 4-week decision over. But
Yeah,
what I'm
I wonder if they flipped that and he just brought you the shot and said, "Hey, complimentary on the house," and
will
then
you
said, "Would you mind leave us a review?" Now you're on like a happy note of like,
yes,
"Wow, that was
yes.
so nice of them. They brought me a shot, or they brought me a free dessert,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever it might be." Then now they're on a like you said, your dinner was kind of whatever, right?
Yeah,
Average. Well, now it's like, oh, well, that was a nice touch.
yeah,
I'll leave a
yeah.
better review because of that.
But the point here is sometimes you don't get what you don't ask for, and sometimes you can be a I don't want to say aggressive in asking for a review, but you can be a little bit pushy in the way where you want to make sure they do leave that review or they do leave give you a video testimonial. And sometimes it's easier if you do that because then you can just do it on your phone. Like, right, you just record them. It might not be as natural as if they were home or, maybe they were doing something and but the likelihood of you getting that versus the likelihood of you getting it after asking, "Hey, would you mind if I shoot a quick video of you? It could be 30 seconds long. Just tell me about your experience." But always ask for the Google review, the TripAdvisor review, or the video testimonial at peak happiness. Like, do not ask a client for a review if something wrong happened, or just make sure they're really happy, they're smiling, they're laughing, and it's like, I know you had a really good time. Would you mind leaving us a review so that other people's lives can be changed like yours? So,
Love
cool.
it. There's so
Awesome.
much you can do. So much you can do. Obviously, don't feel overwhelmed. Start with the basics. Start where you can,
Yeah.
and then build on it. Right. So don't try to be McDonald's today. If you're a company that's really getting started, look at your competitors and what they're doing well, and don't copy it, but mimic it and find ways that you can put your own spin on it, on your
Yeah.
own way of doing things that's going to build your brand to be what you want. If you're one of the top dogs, then go look at other industries and see what is working in other industries, and how you can stay a top dog is doing the best stuff all the time. So keep doing it. Don't give up and be like, "Oh, I'm at the top. I'm just going to kind of relax on what I've been doing," but do more.
Absolutely. I love it. Very cool. Well, everybody, this is a wrap of our first episode, and I'm hoping that we look back on this in a year and think, "Oh, wow, we've grown so much." So if you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, comment, give us a rating, and share it with fellow tour operators. Give us your feedback. We want to grow. So grow in terms of viewership, but also just in terms of value. Make sure that we're giving the most value that we can.
Yeah, this is something I've never done before. So it's going to be a fun ride to see how we continue doing it and see how we get better, because I love looking back and being like, wow, that was awful.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I hope you make it through this and you're listening to this and you watch the next one, because we will look back on it and say that was awful
yeah.
because
And we
we're way
want
better
to.
at it now.
I want
Yeah.
to, right? Like you, if and this is goes with business. If you don't look back on your business 5 years ago and think, "Wow, I'm embarrassed by that," you haven't changed enough. So I'm ready. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining our ride. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys soon.
See ya.